Hi guys, I'm Heather and welcome to my channel. So today I am going to share my August TBR, and I thought I'd give myself a theme to kind of liven it up for myself. While I do want to go through all the books on my shelf and not spend as much time purchasing new books, I do need some new things now and then, and I would like to actually read some current books. Most of the books that I have are pretty old, some of them like upwards of like 10 years old or so, and I want to read some new things. So I decided to give myself a theme for this month, basically, and do hyped books for my TBR. I only actually have 4 of them, but I have a whole list. So I definitely want to get through the 4 that I have and then maybe pick up some more of the list along the way. So I probably won't read this entire list, but I want to get through a good number of them. Some of these books are like well loved, and some of them are ones that were like really hyped as they were being released. So it's kind of a mix. I did put like a random old one in there just because I've never read it, and just for years I've always heard people talk about it, and I may or may not get to it, but we will see. So let's get into the TBR. So the first book that I have on here is actually a manga, and it is Orange, the Complete Collection Volume 1 by Ichigo Takano. And I'm not sure how I'll feel about this. This kind of manga is not the kind that I normally like to read. I tend to like to read more comedies, more lighthearted romance, stuff like that, instead of like the more dramatic fare. But everyone has been talking about this recently, so I figured I'd give it a go. I started watching the anime a while ago and I did quit. I thought it was pretty slow, but manga's pretty easy, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a shot. Then the next book is basically everyone's love, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I have actually never read her other books, so I hope I can read this one without having read that first trilogy that's in the same universe. I hope so. We're gonna try. I guess I'll find out pretty quickly if I can't, and maybe I can fit those into this month. We'll see. So I'm gonna do Six of Crows. And I almost feel like I don't need to describe any of these books because everyone kind of already knows what they are. Okay, so the next book is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. And this one's a more recent one. I know that it's got mixed reviews since it's been out, but I know everyone was super excited for it when it was coming out. And the last book that I actually have physically is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I'm excited for this one, actually. I love the idea of like the 70s band kind of thing. I read a memoir called Girl in a Band, I think is what it was called. And it was by Kim Gordon, who was the lead singer of Sonic Youth. And the whole like band vibe and everything like that was just so cool. So I'm hoping that this book will have some of that kind of feeling in it, because I really like the behind the scenes band kind of thing. And if you haven't read Girl in a Band, I suggest it because it's good. Oh, I do have another one physically. I don't know where it is though. I'll have to find it. It might be in my car. So Books A Million, which is like the kind of chain here. I don't know if it's regional or if it's all over, but it's kind of like a Barnes & Noble. We don't have a Barnes & Noble. The closest one is like an hour and a half away because they all closed here. So we only have Books A Million. It's the same sort of thing. And they did this thing for their card members that was basically a penny a page for one book. So there were no collector's books that I really wanted to get. Some people really lucked out on like collector's Game of Thrones books that were like 60 or so bucks. But the one that I got was Middle Game by Shannon McGuire. It was about it's like 500 something pages, so I paid like $5 and some change for it. So that was a really good deal, so I picked that one up. And I don't know that it's her most talked about book series. I think the Wayward Children's one is. But I know people were really interested in this one too, so I went ahead and got that, and I'm adding it to the list. And if I have time, just because Shannon McGuire is such a hyped author, I have one of her very early books in the urban fantasy ones that she did like on ebook called Rosemary and Rue. It's like, I think the series is October Day or something like that. And I might try to fit that one in if I have time. So the next book that I'm adding to the list is Red, White, and Royal Blue. And I'm completely unprepared, so I don't know the author's name. Let me find it. By Casey McQuiston. And I don't know, people like it, so I'm going to read it. I'm not a huge contemporary sort of fan, but I do like rom-coms, so I'm hoping it's kind of in that vein and not a little bit more dramatic. I don't really like dramatic contemporary all that much, so hopefully it's a little bit more in the rom-com, a little bit less in the dramatic. And another one that I have heard talked about a lot is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. And I'm not sure how I'm going to like that. It seems like it has the rom-com aspect. And I've only read one book by Christina Lauren, and it was a young adult book, not a romance adult book. It was called Sublime, and it was a ghost love story, and it was a young adult book. It was really dramatic, and I kind of didn't love the ending. I don't know. So we'll see how I like this one. It's a completely different type of book, but same authors, so I don't know. Maybe just young adult is not their forte. So another book that I'm adding to the list is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, and I haven't read any of Jay Kristoff's individual books, but I did read Illuminae, and I know people love that book, but I really did not love that book. Like, I really didn't. I don't even think I finished it. So, hopefully, a solo book is more to my liking, I guess. And this is a bit of an older one, but I remember hearing people talk about it just a little while ago, and that's The Hating Game. I think it's Sally Thorne is the author. I really should be more prepared. So this one's definitely just like a rom-com. The next book that I want to add to the list is Scythe, and I think the author is Neil Shusterman, and it sounds interesting. So I'm excited to read that one. And the next book I want to add is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I did read some of her other series. Was it The Daughter of Smoke and Bone? It got too much into backstory and I kind of quit in the second book. But I did like the writing style and I was actually really into the first book. I don't like flashbacks a whole lot. So that book had a ton of them in the second, the second book had a ton of those, which I didn't like, but I liked the writing style. So hopefully I will like this one too. The plot isn't necessarily super interesting to me, but people like it so much that I'm hoping that I'll still like it. And there are a couple books that are actually pretty new that I've heard a lot of people talk about, so I want to go ahead and add those to the list, and I may not get to these because they're so new. I think I'm just going to go down the list, but the first one that I want to add is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. It just kind of sounds interesting, and I've heard a ton of people talk about it. I like the cover. I think that's really pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that one. And then I also want to add Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This one actually really does sound interesting. I think it's what, Lord of the Flies kind of inspired. And I like that kind of thing. So I hope it's a good one. And the next, very recent book that I want to add to my list is The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. And again, a lot of people have been talking about it. It sounds really interesting. So I want to try to add that in. So the last book that I want to put on this list is a very old one, but it seemed to have been everyone's favorite book at some point. And that one is Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi. I have never read this book, and I think it's finally time that I do. So that is my very extensive TBR. I don't think I will get to all of these. I really don't, but I wanted to make the list and see what I could get to and just try to catch up on the things that are popular. So that is it for this time, and I will see you guys later. Bye.